Tonight, vaccine injury. The Fort St. John woman speaks out about a lack of support. Measles update. Northern Health issues new exposure notice. And Wildfire tour. The Minister of Forests visits Northeast BC. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us. And we begin tonight with a Fort St. John woman speaking out about a lack of support for those suffering from vaccine injuries. Michelle Wharton received her first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine back in November of 2021. She says she felt pressured by the province to get vaccinated to be able to continue working as a dental hygienist. Michelle says she has dealt with severe immune system, vision, and neurological damage ever since getting vaccinated. She spent $300,000 for life-saving brain surgery in the United States and has been forced to sell her dental hygiene clinic in Fort St. John. Michelle says she's almost out of money and resources trying to cope with her illness while not being able to work. She's also unable to qualify for any disability programs, and she adds close to 1,700 other Canadians are in a similar situation and are being failed by the federal Vaccine Injury Support Program.
Program that was meant for individuals like me, that were meant to be there to help us if we were injured. And that program is not meeting those expectations.
Michelle says the program has failed to deliver on its promise to fair and timely access to financial help. According to Health Canada, there have been just over 11,000 reports of serious and adverse events following COVID-19 vaccinations. She says Alberta has taken the lead on investigating their COVID-19 vaccine and pandemic response. She hopes other provinces follow suit. Well, there are 10 more cases of measles being reported here in northern BC, and that brings the total number of cases in the Northern Health region to 71. However, at this moment, there are no active cases in northern BC. The public is being advised of 2 new potential exposures, both at the emergency department of the Fort St. John Hospital. One occurred in the early morning hours of Canada Day, the second occurring in the evening later that same day. The total number of measles cases across the province this year now sits at 99. Anyone who's been exposed to the virus is being asked to isolate for a period of at least 4 days and to seek medical treatment. Police in Fort St. John are thanking the public for their help in locating a missing teenager. Mounties were looking for Makeda Bandy. The 14-year-old was reported missing after she was last seen on Canada Day. The RCMP and her family were concerned for her well-being. Police say Bandy has been located, but did not elaborate on when, where, or how. BC's Forest Minister was in Fort St. John today discussing the current wildfire situation here in the Northeast. Ravi Parmar meeting with community leaders and officials with the BC Wildfire Service. The tour started in Fort Nelson, where the minister says it's a disaster area for wildfires. He says the Prince George Fire Centre has already seen nearly 700,000 hectares of forest burned this year alone, and he adds the region could see 30% of its entire forest gone by the end of 2025. Parmer's next stop is in Dawson Creek, where he will meet with the Peace River Regional District. He'll also head to the Saulteaux First Nation to discuss environmental practices like cultural burns. Parmer says the province is looking to increase the use of cultural burns to help mitigate the effect of future wildfires. Tonight, BC's justice system is once again under the microscope. A brutal attack in Colona has left a mother of 2 dead. The brazen daytime violence erupted in a parking lot. The man charged with her death is her ex-husband. Now, the victim's family is questioning why the accused was released from custody just minutes after being convicted in a domestic violence case. CTV's Shannon Patterson has the story.
32-year-old Bailey McCourt's 9 and 3-year-old daughters were her pride and joy.
Those girls are the most important thing in her life.
After breaking up with her youngest daughter's father, James Plover, McCourt's family says she told them she feared for her life and the courts weren't protecting her.
She was frustrated, scared, and felt unsupported.
Last Friday, a Colona judge convicted Plover of 4 counts of assault by choking and uttering threats in a domestic violence case, but he wasn't held in custody. That same day, Plover allegedly attacked McCourt and her colleague with a hammer, killing his estranged wife in a parking lot. After a brief pursuit, he was arrested and charged with second-degree murder.
If that doesn't constitute first-degree murder, then I don't know what does. It's horrific. It's a senseless act. We're dealing with many, many emotions. and one of them is anger, right? And have a lot of questions about, how many more times this story is going to air before we're able to effect change.
The family questions why Plover was allowed to walk out of the Colona courthouse moments after his convictions in the domestic violence case.
The anger comes from not understanding how we ended up here.
This case, because of what we know around lethality and the potential for femicide, was screaming red flags for years. And it's jarring to see the system fail so spectacularly. And now we have a woman dead and children without their mother.
I mean, this is horrific to imagine that this happened in the middle of the afternoon in Colona. An example of the kind of violence against women we're seeing.
The Premier says he's pushing for bail reform, and the province is working on implementing recommendations in a new report on how to better help victims of domestic violence.
Dr. Kim Stanton's report is a blueprint for action that can be taken.
I'm not sure what sort of reform is going to take, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I also don't want to take away accountability of this individual that committed this.
The McCourt family launched a GoFundMe for the ongoing care of Bailey's 2 little girls.
Everyone that's made a donation, it's very, very appreciative. Our family obviously needs some stability and surround those little girls with love. They have an extremely difficult path ahead of them.
A path without their mother, whose young life was cut short by violence. Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
To Manitoba now, where 2 pilots are dead following a mid-air collision between 2 planes near the town of Steinbeck.
The 2 pilots were pronounced deceased on scene. There were no passengers aboard.
The RCMP says the 2 pilots were pronounced dead at the scene. There were no passengers aboard either plane. The RCMP were notified about the crash at around 8:45 a.m. local time. Emergency crews located the wreckage in the town about 63 kilometers southeast of Winnipeg. The Transportation Safety Board is investigating the crash. We learned today about a shocking conspiracy uncovered by the RCMP. Some active members of the Canadian Armed Forces are now being accused of trying to start an anti-government militia motivated by violent extremism. 4 men are now facing charges. CTV's Michael Couture now on who these men are and what they were allegedly planning.
We know that 2 of the accused are active members of the Canadian Armed Forces. Now, police allege 3 of the 4 have been planning to create a militia. And according to the charges, the plan was to forcibly take possession of land in the Quebec City area. With 83 guns and accessories, about 11,000 rounds of ammunition, and smoke grenades, police believe the group was ready to do something serious. A search in January of 2024 also turned up 4 pairs of night vision goggles and military equipment.
The fact that we could charge with facilitating a terrorist activity, that it means that people were actually preparing, were taking actions that led us to believe that they wanted to actually achieve something and wanted to commit this violent terrorist acts.
The RCMP has charged 4 people, and the Department of National Defence confirms 2 of them are active members of the Canadian Armed Forces. Matthew Forbes faces charges related to possession of firearms. Marc-Auriel Chabot, Simon Anger Odette, and Raphaël Lagacé are all facing charges related to facilitating terrorist activity. The terrorism charges span a period between 2021 and 2024 in Montreal, Quebec City, Petawawa, and Ralphton, Ontario. Lagacé's friend of 12 years is shocked at the accusation that he would be trying to create an anti-government militia. It's quite the contrary, actually. He's very pro-government, very pro-monarchy, says the friend. Police say one of the accused created and ran this Instagram account, which was a recruiting tool for new members of the militia.
As soon as they start talking about seizing land, this goes to me to, I think about some of the militias operating in the United States that set up strongholds, areas where the federal government can't go, and try to really keep out law enforcement.
The 4 accused made a brief court appearance this afternoon in Quebec City, and all of them will remain in custody until their next court date, July 14th. Mike Couture, CTV News, Ottawa.
And staying in Quebec City, Internal Trade Minister Chrystia Freeland was there today, meeting with her provincial and territorial counterparts. Bill C-5, also known as the One Canadian Economy Act, aims to remove internal trade barriers across Canada. It also increases labor mobility and fast-tracks nation-building projects. The Office of the Procurement Ombudsperson says the current system for awarding federal contracts is flawed.
We can no longer sustain Band-Aid solutions. We have to address the foundational issue that our system is too complex and it's not working for all participants.
Today, the Ombudsperson announced the department will appoint a chief procurement officer. They'll help keep the department accountable for issues like lack of documentation and lack of interdepartmental communication. Prime Minister Mark Carney's cabinet has been told to make plans to find ways to save money by the end of the summer. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne, along with Treasury Board President, have issued letters calling on the cabinet ministers to make plans to find day-to-day operational savings. It comes as Ottawa prepares the 2025 budget to be tabled this fall. Now, CTV News has learned ministers must find 7.5% savings for the 2026-27 fiscal year, then 10% the next year, 15% the year after. U.S. President Donald Trump says he's bringing in a new tariff that could have a major impact on Canada.
Today we're doing copper.
Copper, what would that tariff be on? The sectional tariff?
I believe the tariff on copper, we're going to make it 50%.
The U.S. President made that statement during a cabinet meeting today in Washington. Trump's Commerce Secretary later said the import tax will likely take effect by the end of this month or on August the 1st. Canada is a top supplier of copper to the United States. The U.S. accounted for 52% of Canada's copper exports in 2023. The metal is used in construction, transportation, electronics, and many other industries. Trump says he also plans to announce pharmaceutical tariffs that could reach 200%, as well as duties on imported semiconductors. Roughly 50 Canadians have been caught in the immigration crackdown south of the border. One has died in custody, leaving the families of others worried about their loved ones.
It's really horrible for her, horrible. You say they punish people for nothing.
She says her daughter Paula Callejas from Montreal had been working to finalize a U.S. work visa for her swimwear business. When she was arrested for a misdemeanor in Florida, she was handed over to ICE and has been detained for more than 3 months. Her family is not even sure where she's being held. Well, families in Texas are getting the devastating news their loved ones did not survive the floods and are among the more than 100 now confirmed dead. We're hearing stories of heroism, but also the challenging circumstances in which rescuers are working and the testy exchanges over accountability. CTVN's Adrian Gabriel reports.
There's people in it. Oh my God, there's so many people in it. This video from Camp La Junta shows a cabin ripped from its foundation, floating down the Guadalupe River. Attending the camp, brothers Braden and Brock Davis, who credit their counselors with saving their lives.
Our bed started tipping over and like we got to the top really quick.
I want my world to know the Lord of love has come to me.
As campers sing a hymn, a passenger on board this evacuation bus realizes the level of devastation.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
These young girls were rescued from Camp Mystic, where more than 24 have been confirmed dead. The National Weather Service issued their first public warning at 1:14 a.m. on the 4th of July. The Kerr County Sheriff admitting that he wasn't aware of the fast approaching surge until at least 3 hours later.
When I was first notified, it was around the 4 to 5 area. One of my sergeants was in dispatch when the first calls started coming in, the actual 911 calls come in.
Though officials today declined to answer whether a local emergency manager notified authorities of the incoming flash flood.
We will get answers. Right now, all of our resources are focused to recovery.
With the chance of any further rescues fading with each passing hour, hope in Central Texas is turning to heartache over the precious lives swept away. During a cabinet meeting today, President Donald Trump praised the quick deployment of state and federal rescue crews, saying that without them, the number of dead could have doubled or even tripled. Trump confirming that he will be traveling to survey the natural disaster zone in Texas this Friday. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Washington.
Amazon Prime Day kicked off today as global trade uncertainties put consumers and businesses alike on edge. Shoppers can expect bigger discounts as they seek competitive deals. This year's spending is expected to surpass $23 billion. That's 28% higher than in 2024, according to Adobe Analytics. The data firm is also expecting an uptick in usage of buy now, pay later systems. All right, please do stay tuned. Noah will be right back after the break with weather.